Alright, I'm going to try and crank through this one. I don't know how many of you guys out there are actually into 2011s. Truth be told, it's a recent thing for me that I actually started liking them. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, while I do everyday carry a Glock or some form of polymer wonder, I do actually really wish that I could trust, rely upon a 1911. So with that being said, why don't I? Well, there's the inherent 1911s just aren't that reliable if you're not getting one that costs $1 trillion. And that could just be a bias. I mean, you can get stuff like the TRP operator, and I've never had a malfunction with mine. Even if your 1911 is 1000% reliable, you're still only running around with a 7+1 or 8+1, or maybe you're the cool guy who runs the 10-round Wilson Combat mags on your everyday carry. That's fine. Me personally, 7, 8, 9 rounds, not enough. It's just not enough. If you look at statistics, actually, I'm not even going to get into that. I won't carry anything that doesn't hold more than 15 rounds. So, there you go. That's why I don't everyday carry a 1911, because I do have 1911s that run 1000% of the time. I do have Wilson Combats. I do have, I have a lot of guns, but I don't ever actually carry them. Why? Well, they're ridiculously expensive for the ones that do actually run well. On top of that, they're super heavy, and you only get a very limited amount of rounds. So it's just kind of one of those, it's not really for me things. Then we turn to the 2011s, where you have double stack 45s, or 10mm, or 9mm. So the focus of this is kind of like you want to segue away from a Glock, or something that is a polymer or semi-polymer or even steel or aluminum, and you really like the 1911 platform, like myself. That leads us to the STI, and this will be the first time that I have actually opened this. I do this on camera for you guys almost exclusively every single time. Okay. High quality box, rubberized feeling box as well. Ooh. Already. Okay. Rubberized case. And actually, just like the Archon I just reviewed, waterproof as well. Very nicely done. Okay, so back to round count. And the first thing that's glaringly apparent, 20+1. And you may be thinking, well, that's a really big magazine. Well, here's my Glock 17 mag. It's not any wider at all. It's just a little bit longer with that base plate. So these are the 140mm mags. They also make 126, 136 that hold 17 rounds and fit flush, and they're actually shorter by about that much than a Glock 17 mag. And again, still no wider. With this, we get 2 mags. There. Set those up there. Kind of neat. To be honest with you guys, I never actually put a gun back in its case for carrying. I have designated range bags for that. But, set this aside and see if they give us any other goodies, and then we'll get on to the gun. In here, what do we have? A lot, apparently. Makes me nervous. Also makes me nervous. I don't like seeing spare parts. I don't like seeing tools. That is almost as much of a joke as the one that came on the DP12. Cool. Being an American-made company, no surprise that they give us Lucas oil ×2. Yay! Vinyl. It's definitely going on the Jeep. Sweet. More literature. A lot of you guys know the name STI from race guns and competition guns. It's kind of a not too well-known thing that they actually do make defensive weapons as well. So here's our manual. I can tell you right away that this is going to be very minimalistic. It's just printer paper that's stapled, but I don't really care about this. I don't know why that wasn't in the breech, but again, I don't really care. Let's see. Okay, we're empty. Take a look at the manual, as I always do for you guys. Black and white, very rudimentary, very basic. They assume if you're spending more than $2,500 on a firearm, you should probably know about it. And realistically, most people who are going to be spending this much money on a gun, they would know about it, or be at least familiar with 1911. So, I mean, this looks like it includes everything that you would need to know about the firearm, and not much else, which I'm okay with, because, again, it comes down to what are you paying for? Are you paying for the gun, or are you paying for a super fancy manual, super fancy case, which, in this instance, yeah, you get a super fancy case. I'm totally fine with that as well. But that's just because I know that STIs make quality guns. I do have another 2011 from them. It is the STI Perfect 10, and it is the Perfect 10. And there she is. Again, for some of you, this may not be your bag. For me, I'm in love. STI versus Wilson Combat and Brown, Bear, not going to get into that. So for whatever it may be worth, I do like STI better. First thing that I noticed that I will give it a ding for is it's a very positive click for safety off, and it is relatively positive doing it fast up. But if you're doing it slower, it's a bit mushy. Not that big of a deal, but it is what it is. So much like the craze that has swept the Glock guys, they give you a index cutout, which I really love, though I wouldn't actually do it to any of my Glocks. An undercut on the trigger guard, very aggressive serrations in the front, which a Surefire X300 butted up against will look really nice. Overall, very, very gorgeous 2011. Let's see what it looks like with one of these 20-round mags in it. Yeah, that's pretty. Super smooth. As per usual, we're going to safety check the weapon, even though it's brand new out of the box. Always do that, guys. You never know. That's how accidents happen. So let's feel the trigger. Oh. One more time, try and do this so you guys can see it. It's just, that reset is straight back to the wall of the sear. Beautiful. It's perfect. I will never ever really say that about a trigger, but it is perfect. Yeah, I love it. So if you guys listen to anything that I say, you'll know that the Heine sights are my favorite. The rear notching for anti-reflection is my favorite, and a single tritium rear dot is also my favorite. And moving to the front, kind of a curveball, Tragicon. At least it's not Meprolite. I have no problem with that at all. So, the STI 2011 Tactical. I like that it doesn't brandish the word tactical everywhere. I hate that. It's like the TRP operator says tactical like 6 times over the damn thing. It feels better now. I don't know what changed. It is equally clicky both ways. So maybe it just needed to be broken in, or maybe there was a bit too much lube on that plunger. But it feels even both ways now. Again with the trigger. Press, 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 press. Break. Ah, love it. So, let's compare this size-wise really quickly to a Glock 17. This weapon is hot, so I'm being extremely careful with it. A little bit longer. Yeah, quite a bit fatter. So, yeah, it is fatter, and obviously it's going to be a bit heavier. It being fatter doesn't really matter that much to me. I don't care about printing. And yeah, it is a shock to people seeing me carrying a gun, because I am so heavily tattooed. I understand that. It's not too common that you see someone that has as many guns as me, or someone who's carrying guns in general that looks like me. But I'm usually also always wearing a badge. So people will see tattoos, see a gun, look me over, see a badge, and be like, okay, that's weird. Just truth be told, that's kind of how my daily life works. Again, I don't really care about printing. So the Glock 17, comparatively, it's on par. Just the grip of this is obviously going to be fatter because it's a double stacked 20 round with a flared magwell. And yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but this is in fact 9mm. So it's honestly relatively rare that I will read other gun reviews before buying a gun, because I like going into things completely unbiased. I do trust STI. I do trust the platform entirely. I didn't have much reserve buying it because I love the STIs so much, but reading somebody else's experience with the firearm was kind of important to me, because I do actually plan on carrying this every day. Not necessarily at work, but this is probably going to be one of my new everyday carry weapons. Everything that I've read, everyone said the gun is just phenomenal. Alright, so really quickly, we'll tear it down. Still nothing magically in there, but I always check anyways. I always cut my fingernails at the worst possible times. You guys ready to have a panic attack? So, they don't actually give you enough room to really grab much, which sucks because I cut my fingernails at seemingly the worst times. But I was careful. Squeak. So I am going to lube this. I mean, what else would you expect other than very beautifully machined art from STI? Love their guns. I'm really glad I did this because there's a piece of a tag inside of my gun. You guys see that? What the hell? So not much you can do about it. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. With the 1911 or 2011, you do need something to hold the recoil spring assembly while you are taking it down, that's fine. And they do give you 2 sides. I don't really think it's necessary to use both. Watch, I'm going to say that, and it's going to spring apart. So this is the other side. So that holds everything together so you can take everything apart. And link goes forward, I'm assuming, if it's anything like any other 1911. And the barrel slides forward and out. beautiful machining. Again, would expect nothing less from an STI. Put everything back together. And actually, yep, that one already fell off. I'm okay with that. We're going to carefully set this all back in place and push forward, taking the tension off of that because you don't want the recoil spring snapping back apart and hurting your gun, more importantly, or hurting you, less important. And obviously this U shape goes down and interfaces with the barrel like so, making sure that the hole for your link is exposed. Put everything back together. And you guys, this is just the way that I do it because I hate fishing for the link. So I will go until I can see the link, and I will just gently set my takedown in there, pull everything back, and then click it down. Okay? That's how I do it. If that's not how you do it, I don't care. I really don't fucking care. A lot of guys will say you should have it all the way back, and if the link's not in the right place, no. That may be true of like old Colts, but welcome to the 21st century. Love it. Love, love, love. Cool. So there it is, you guys. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, leave them down below. I may not actually do a shooting video on this. I am, however, going out today to shoot it. So before I post this video, I will let you guys know in the description below how many times I shot it, how well it did, if I had any other further complaints, let you know if I had any hiccups. So I'll give you guys the full rundown, everything that you need to know as far as how it shot. And I may do a video on actually shooting it, but at the same time, I'm not sure how many of you guys are actually going to be too interested in buying such an expensive 1911. And I'm not saying that as an elitist or anything. I'm saying that as a guy who wants a 1911 or 2011 to carry that I can rely on, that is double stack and 9mm. So you purists out there who are like, oh, it should only be 1911, should only be 45, need not apply. Don't want to hear your shit in the comments. Deal with it. I have both, you know. Not just a 2011 guy. I do love them all. And I am a purist when it comes to 1911s, but I also accept the fact that we are in a changing time and 8 rounds just isn't enough anymore. Love you guys. Happy holidays. See you in the next one.